Welcome back to Sunday Vibes, one and all. We're back in the pub. Chris, Pat and myself are finally back. We've had a couple of weeks away from the Dream Team, but we are together now. Fear not. And the first question comes from Tim Huber, who says, is Bayern Munich able to win the Champions League under Jupp Heynckes? Not the best English grammar, but we're working with it.
Maybe he's German.
He might be.
That's what Marks were trying.
Can they do it under Jupp?
They can.
Will they?
No. I think...
I'm sure you said they could. Oh, they would.
They can. I didn't say they would. I think Manchester City might. I think Manchester City might win the Champions League. Looking around, I find it hard to see a team that's better than them. In fact, the only team I look at who I think could maybe do them over two legs, really, at the moment, is Tottenham.
Come on, no.
Genuinely.
No, Tottenham would lose over two legs to Manchester City.
Tottenham, okay. Tottenham maybe not as good a side as Bayern or Barca or City overall, in terms of the league, but in a two-match knockout kind of playoff, Spurs are hard to beat, man. Their defense is so good.
My concern with Tottenham is if they lose a key member of personnel, then they suffer much more than someone like Manchester City, who have an incredulous bench.
But maybe if they get to the quarters or something, then they might start prioritising the Champions League over the league, because they know they're safely going to make the top four. They also know they're probably not going to win the league. So maybe they get there and they look at the run. Maybe a big hitter gets knocked out in the round of 16, and they think, you know what, we could do this.
Well, they're now of a level where all they need is a bit of quality to compete with the big boys, which is a great place to be at if you're a Spurs fan.
But equally, their record away from home against the top six in the Premier League is horrifying. I think it's something like 1 win in 16 games away from home against top six opposition.
But they never lose by more than one, and also they a lot of those games that they lost could have been draws and could have been wins. The United game they lost. That could easily have been a Spurs win, right?
And also the difference
basically
is,
level.
In the Champions League, I always think even if you lose 2-1 or you lose 3-2, you get that away goal is the crucial thing in the Champions League, which I always think Spurs are likely to do. They've got such a good strike force. You think Harry Kane? Whenever I watch Harry Kane, I think he's going to score a goal. Yeah. So just needs that one away goal. But anyway, back to Bayern Munich. Do they stand a better chance under Jupp Heynckes hamster than they did under Ancelotti?
The form since Jupp Heynckes has come back has been pretty imperious, hasn't it? 7 wins, 1 draw, 4 goals conceded, and they've scored 19. I think at Bayern Munich over the past few years they've had very demanding managers, and as a result, the sort of chief personnel like your Ian Robbins, like your Frank Ribery's, your Javi Martinez's, have come to expect a certain degree of intensity, maybe in training and just in the way they play. And Ancelotti is known to be quite a lax manager.
He's quite old school.
Exactly,
very old school.
A very good man manager. But perhaps, Ian Robin was complaining specifically about training, wasn't he? Saying that his son's training was of a higher calibre than the stuff that Ancelotti was bringing to the table. Although I do remember them occasionally moaning about Pep's training.
A lot.
So who knows? But I think Jupp Heynckes has their respect first and foremost, and he plays people like Thomas Muller, who are fan favourites, who the club hierarchy like to see play. So Jupp Heynckes, he seems to be making all the right decisions if you're a Bayern fan at the moment.
Have they been tested yet, though?
They haven't been. Well, Borussia Dortmund, you'd say it's a fairly big test.
Yeah, but
Leipzig as well,
if you look at the shots and the expected goals in that game, it was pretty level, right? Dortmund had more shots, shots on target was about level.
Sven Ulrich had a very good game.
Yeah, the one thing I would say, though, is when Ancelotti took over, personally, I thought Ancelotti had been bought in to win the Champions League.
Yeah.
That was the reason they had appointed Ancelotti.
Well, is he only manager to win it with 3 clubs?
I believe so.
He's
got an incredible record in the Champions League anyway.
3 times?
And one thing Pep struggled with was potentially the Champions League. So everybody thought Ancelotti had been bought in for that reason. So surely under Heynckes, they're going to continue to prioritise the Champions League. If I was a Bayern fan, I would be hoping to prioritise the Champions League this year, I think. Because not that I'm getting bored of winning the Bundesliga, but you've got to start loosening it up a bit. It's all well and good winning the Bundesliga 3-4 years on the bounce, but you've got to start challenging in Champions League finals. And last year, although they Did they get knocked out by Madrid?
Yeah.
They did get knocked out by Madrid, didn't they?
They got a bit unlucky.
It's a harsh one, maybe. It's a little bit harsh.
They've been in the most semi-finals in the entirety of the competition after Real Madrid. So in terms of the way they prioritise it, you can't say that they don't find a good balance at current. They're extremely unlucky in a couple of fixtures when Pep Guardiola was there. I remember them going to the Bernabeu. I think they eventually drew the game or maybe lost 1-0. But they were brilliant that day. And the return leg was a bit of a disaster, wasn't it? When he chose to go with the system that the players
disaster, well documented.
Thought would work better, yeah. But I don't think if they lost the Bundesliga, it's a travesty, isn't it?
It's very true. Yeah, it's a bigger thing to lose the Bundesliga.
That chasm has been widening and widening. So if someone like Peter Bosz can narrow it at Dortmund, then I think maybe that will distract them from the Champions League.
It will do. So let's quickly do one prediction for who's going to win it then. Right now, I'm going Barcelona.
Man City.
On current evidence, Manchester City, yeah.
Oh, there we have it. But who do you think is going to win the Champions League? And can it be Jupp Heynckes at Bayern Munich? Let us know in the comments below. Our next question comes from COK Ulstrom on Twitter, and they say, who is the best young French defender, midfielder and attacker under 23s only? Hamster, seeing as you've got that little French moustache going on.
I'm going full
Kick
Poirot
us off with the defenders, mate.
Well, France going for a golden era at the moment, aren't they? In terms of producing talent, it's coming out of their derrieres. Titi and Mendy, they both qualify. Both 23 years old. I'm not sure if Mendy will be 23 next time he plays after suffering that horrific injury. Titi gets better every time I watch him. I think Varane's 24, but Real Madrid did miss him severely against Tottenham. Titi complements Gerard Piqué really well.
Yeah.
That Barcelona side is pretty reliant on his athleticism as well. I've seen some great last-ditch tackles from him this season. Kimpembe looks like a good prospect over at PSG. If you haven't seen any of him, we did a scout report on him, I believe.
I think so.
We did, yeah.
Check the back archive. Van Straten definitely wrote a great script on him. Who else? Laporte?
Laporte, yeah.
Potentially.
How's Laporte recovered from that ACL injury? Because he had such, was it a broken leg? He had such a bad injury. I haven't heard anything of him since at Bilbao.
Still very young, It's hard to believe he's still under 23. He seems like he's been around forever.
Him along with Gaia at Valencia have long been linked with moves to Barcelona, haven't they? So it would be interesting to see how he returns from that injury layoff.
Midfielders?
But you could construct a starting back four at international level
you could,
just with those players,
under
which is
24,
really
under
alarming.
23s.
I'm not sure if you could say that with many other nationalities. If you can think of any others, let me know in the comments below. But midfielders, I'll hand over to Patrick Van Parten.
Midfielders, a bunch of them have already had big moves, so Tiémoué Bakayoko, Corentin Tolisso, obviously we saw them move for big money this summer, and actually I think both of them are great. Like Bakayoko, in particular, has shown himself to be surprisingly tactically versatile. Like last season, he was doing a decent amount of defensive work, but mostly he was like driving forward from the midfield to the attack, like dribbling past people, and he's still doing that. But now his defensive numbers are absolutely enormous, which is really, really good. Like,
imagine if he could finish.
Well,
there's some sitters against
But
United.
that was obviously a tactical ploy by Conte to have Bakayoko arriving late in the box.
Yeah, well, he'll only improve with that kind of stuff. He is still very, very young, 23 years old, like we said. The main guy for me is Adrien Rabiot.
Oh, gorgeous football.
Adrien Rabiot is
himself.
He can also perform a variety of roles. Like, he can play a defensive role, but you don't really want him there because he's not hugely strong, even though he's a tall guy. But his ability to get through gaps in the middle of the park, with dribbling, he can pass in tight spots. Like, he can contribute defensively. Like, he's got great vision. He's just he reminds me of Modric in a way, which is pretty much the highest praise I can give a central midfielder. And then of course there's Tanguy Ndombele at Lyon, and there's Aouar as well.
Does Fekir qualify at Lyon as well? No, is he a little bit over?
Well, Fekir I think is more of a forward now.
Yeah.
Fekir's got like 11 in 11 this season, but Fekir, I believe he's 24 now.
Completed the third most dribbles in Europe's top 5 leagues after Messi, after Neymar. So he's on song at the minute.
His link up with Lacazette before he had that major serious ACL injury, I believe it was. Might have been an MCL injury. It was so good.
Well, he's got a slightly more fluid role now. I think it kind of suits him because there's Mariano Diaz who can play wide or as a centre forward. Depay, who's kind of similar. Fekir's able to play pretty much wherever he wants, and he's able to run that team. And I think that's really exciting. I mean, his connection with Lacazette, though, recently there have been a lot of rumours that Arsenal might be interested in getting him in as a sort of Ozil or Alexis replacement, and it would make a lot of sense.
Because that connection was unbelievable when they're at Lyon. He was sitting just kind of a second striker,
but I mean,
midfield.
Let's be real, like where the money is with France's youngsters, it's in attack.
Yeah, Ousmane Dembele.
Who are you going for?
Thomas Lemar, Anthony Martial. I'm actually going to say, I think Kingsley Coman could have a massive impact at the World Cup.
Really?
And I think the main reason for that is Jupp Heynckes. He has started unbelievably well under Jupp Heynckes, Kingsley Coman. I just think that extra bit of freedom has been given. Maybe it's just behind the scenes, a little bit of a confidence boost, a sort of an arm around the shoulder. He just seems like a completely different player to what he was under Ancelotti. And I think Kingsley Coman can drive France forward so much from those wide positions. We know how good he is dribbling-wise. His ability to beat a man is incredible. Obviously, so is the likes of Thomas Lemar and Anthony Martial, where I think, obviously, Ousmane will be back for the World Cup because I believe he's going to be back around January. He's got that thigh problem, hasn't he? Hopefully, he's fit enough and is on full form when he hits World Cup time. But the likes of Kylian Mbappe is well documented. I just think that Mbappe will run away with goals at the World Cup and tear defences apart like we've seen him do at PSG in the Champions League. But Kingsley Coman could just be a little hidden secret for them. Because obviously they like to start Olivier Giroud, don't they? They like Olivier Giroud's power and physicality.
Connection.
So he's good at bringing those guys into play.
I think that Kingsley Coman's ability to deliver balls into the box and link with Giroud is going to be key.
My question to you, Per, though, would be: is Didier Deschamps, who recently signed the contract extension, the right man to lead this exciting young team? Because I believe he's quite a conservative coach.
Well,
and we saw that at the Euros. Will he waste these exciting young talents?
I don't think he'll waste them, but I do agree he's going to be more conservative. I think you're not going to see
in defensive midfield at the Euros.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to see a front line of the likes of Ousmane Dembele alongside Kingsley Coman with Tony Martial and Griezmann sat in behind. It's just not going to happen. You are going to see Olivier Giroud, and you are going to see probably maybe even central defenders operating as DMs. But equally, that might be what they need. It is a hell of an ask to ask a really young team to go out and win a World Cup in big games where you've got 90 minutes to either beat your opponent or you're out of the tournament.
And when you look at central midfield pairings that have gone to the finals of World Cups or have won them, they are often quite conservative pairings. You know, so the Netherlands got to the final with Van Bommel and De Jong in midfield. I mean, that World Cup, while we don't think of them as a defensive team, Spain played Xabi Alonso and Busquets.
And they had some tremendously experienced
Khedira
players
and
in there as well.
Schweinsteiger.
Puyol, Casillas.
So quite often you have teams which focus on destroying World Cups because, of course, one goal can be so costly. But I think, I don't know, I would sort of love to see a Wenger or an Ancelotti end up managing the French national team, because somebody needs to take all that youth and just like throw it together and say, right, we're going to work out a way to get the best out of some of the best talents we've seen in like the last 20 years.
But talking of the World Cup and the youngsters that CEO Kullstrom has mentioned, who do we think, other than the Frenchman, is going to be sort of standout players, ones to watch at the World Cup? There's loads of good youngsters floating around at the moment. Yeah,
I mean, I've got Serie A on the brain because I've just been watching highlights back at the office. Bernardeschi and Bentancur at Juventus, I think, should they get into their respective national sides, they could be really exciting prospects. They've taken to life in Turin like ducks to water. Bentancur, I've been particularly impressed with this season. Just his ability to sort of break the lines, his ability to hold the ball up, the way he shields it. He just guards possession so well, and he's been performing much more maturely than I'd have thought, having just arrived from Boca Juniors, was it?
Maybe. I think
I think it was
somewhere. It's someone who they have a deal with. I think it might be Boca Juniors. But so they're the sort of immediate players that spring to mind. But just going back before you to answer this question to Bayern Munich and Kingsley Coman, I read recently that they're really interested, and this has been said by powers that be at the club, in Julian Draxler, should he continue to rot on the bench at PSG. Now, if they bought in Draxler as a Ribery replacement, does that hamper does that limit Koeman's playing time? If Ian Robben's still fit and playing on the other wing with Robert Lewandowski up front, Thomas Muller or James Rodriguez in the hole?
I don't know, because I also saw reports this week that they're looking at Robben replacements in the forms of the likes of Christian Pulisic.
And Julian Brandt.
Was mentioned. So potentially they're looking to phase Robben and Ribery out completely.
Well, they have to. They have to be thinking about that.
And then that
Could be
is a
an exciting
situation
summer
where
next year,
you could see Draxler,
Big boy
Koeman
shit.
and Lewandowski with maybe Muller, because we know how much Jupp Heynckes likes Muller in that number 10 role. So that could be something you can
It'd be
see.
intriguing.
But the Germans also have some decent youngsters at Pato as well.
Yeah, I think Leroy Sané, I mean, on current form, he's been absolutely outrageous. Of course, Gabi Jesus as well with Brazil. Like Brazil for
great
years were
shout.
just crying out for a number 9 who could get the best out of the guys around them. Now they've got a situation where they can play Firmino, they can play Gabi Jesus, and around them they've got guys like Coutinho, Neymar, and of course, you know, people who've perhaps fallen out of favour a little bit, like Lucas Moura, still a very useful player.
Paulinho,
I think-
who's come back to the front.
I think it's exciting. I mean, also it'll be interesting to see what Jorginho ends up deciding. Will he go with Italy or will he go with Brazil? Because I think if he drops into that Brazil side, he'd fix probably the biggest hole in that team. So I'd be if that happens, Brazil, I think, will massively improve their chances to win the World Cup.
Although the way Fernandinho is playing at Manchester City,
Also,
you'd say that
Sure.
he could do that adequately, but I mean, that would free him up to be more of the box-to-box player that he naturally is, I suppose.
Yeah. I've got
What about
Asensio
you
as
then,
well.
mate?
Marco Asensio, I think he'll
Sure.
be a big tournament for
Just
Marco
about makes
Asensio.
it, doesn't he? Is he 23 now?
He's 21. Marco
He's only
Asensio's
21?
He's a little baby.
Yeah, I think Marco Asensio is right on the verge of being an absolute superstar. And I think if he has a good World Cup, I think it tips him over the edge and he becomes sort of Real Madrid's next poster boy after Cristiano Ronaldo. I really do. I think commercially he's an extremely viable product for Real Madrid, and if the World Cup goes in his way, I think you'll see Los Blancos absolutely pump
Who did they
the
beat the
publicity into
weekend?
it.
He scored
that
another
worldie.
absolute banger. The guy only scores absolute rippers.
100%. I mean, I don't know where he fits into that Spain team, but you've got to make him fit. I think you've
They'll
got to
find a
make
way,
him
even
fit.
if it's just as a sub. You know, like he's incredible coming on against tired defenders in the last 20 minutes of games. He's the last guy you want to face.
And they've been great during the qualifiers, like against Italy, not playing traditional centre forwards, which suits him down to the ground.
Oh, imagine him as a little false nine, buzzing about. Absolute cannon of a left foot. But who are you looking forward to seeing at the World Cup? And which of the French youngsters do you think has the highest ceiling? Let us know your thoughts, as ever, down below. Final question of the day comes from Soms32, who says, which player has been the surprise package of the Premier League season so far? Now, there's plenty of names. I'm going to jump straight in, and I'm going to have to say Burnley players. A couple of Burnley names stand out to me. At the back, probably, because I think their defence has been really solid. Ben Mee and James Tarkowski. Now, when Michael Keane left in the summer, I think a lot of people thought Burnley's defence was really going to fall apart. Tarkowski has stepped up in a big way. I think 8.8 clearances per 90 is ridiculous. Burnley's defensive record is really sound. They've conceded 9 goals in the Premier League season this year. That's the same as Chelsea's, only bettered by Man United, Man City and Tottenham.
But
That's
should
incredible.
it be sound?
It
Because
probably
they're
shouldn't,
allowing
no.
17 shots
100%.
per game
But equally,
and only having 2.4 on target.
that's a really good point. I have to admit, they are conceding way too
They
many
do
shots,
block-
but they're not
yeah, they
conceding
do block
goals.
so many,
and
don't they?
to be in the position they are within the Premier League, no Burnley fan would have thought that was going to happen at the start of the season. And I'm sure that most of them will be praying for Sean Dyche to stay on and not leave for Everton.
Sean Dyche in his crystal ball.
Yeah,
He
100%.
is definitely some sort of maze.
He
So
put-
yeah,
yeah, he
I'll go
puts-
Tarkowski.
wizard.
They get lucky, but he puts them in a position to get lucky, right?
Yeah, 100%. I'll go Tarkowski. There's also
that's a
Tarkowski.
good shout.
One of Michael Keane's best assets was his passing range, wasn't it? And I think when he stepped into the international arena with England, people were impressed by his passing. And James Tarkowski, I think, has got like a 74% pass accuracy this season. So they've kind of replaced Keane really smoothly with Tarkowski. He had been there the season before, but played a backup
Where
role.
are they getting from? Brentford, Sheffield United?
Yeah, I'm not too sure, but he'd been there for one season and then played a backup role under Keane and then just stepped up into his shoes. So I've been really impressed by him, so I'll put him down. But there are some bigger candidates, aren't there, than the Burnley boys?
I mean, if we're talking defenders,
Yeah.
John Stones has been incredible this season. A lot of people highlighted his costly errors last season, his tendency to make a mistake in the big games, sort of hypercritical of him because of the transfer fee that he arrived for. But he's been the sort of the figure of composure this season, hasn't he?
Yes.
I think he's completing 80 to 90 passes a game with a 97% pass accuracy at the start of this season. Obviously, you'd expect that to sort of drop off a little bit, but I mean, he's still accomplishing 92% last season. So Pep Guardiola is really moulding him into that ball-playing centre-back. In the form of Gerard Piqué, I've noticed that this season he started to maraud forward a bit more. He started to carry the ball, he started to be braver in possession, he's joining attacks.
He is so brave
He
in
wasn't
possession.
necessarily doing last season. I mean, yeah, he's playing like defence-splitting balls.
Yeah.
A good 20, 30 metres.
The worst thing about it, though, is that
helps-
he's going to be horrible for England.
It helps. It helps when they've got Edison behind him, right? Him and Otamendi look like two totally different players now. They've got Edison behind him instead of Joe Hart and Claudio Bravo. And Edison's array of passing has been fantastic. I don't think anyone actually expected him to settle quite as quickly as he has as well. A lot of Benfica fans who I was talking to were saying, listen, like, we know good goalkeepers, we've been through Jan Oblak, etc. in recent years, and he's better. I didn't quite believe them then, but I'm starting to now. Although, what is that tattoo on the side of his neck, man?
Howling.
When are you going to get another one, by the way?
I'm going to get that Diego Perotti one of like
He's going to get the Top Gear logo on there.
a boot and a
Glasses
football.
When are you getting the FDFC badge?
Oh, I've already got it, but you just don't know where, mate.
Penis.
God, I think there have been like some really great kind of finds this season. Like, I mean,
Carlson.
I think Spurs are really good at bringing through talent, and Ben Davies has improved this year. Trippier has improved this year. I'd be tempted to say Davinson Sanchez, but I do think this isn't a criticism, but like, it is easier for a centre back to play in a team which is obviously defensively secure and with two centre backs around him in Vertonghen and Alderweireld, who are so good and know each other really well.
Look at how it benefited David Luiz.
Yeah. So actually, the person I want to highlight at Spurs is Harry Winks. Harry Winks is an unusual talent. Like, the way that he receives the ball is quite remarkable. Michael Cox has just written an article about this that's worth checking out. He says that Harry Winks, his passing is actually not. People are saying his passing is great at the moment, and in a way it isn't. Like, his execution of passes isn't good, but his vision and the way that he receives the ball, he always makes sure he's moving into space. It's really, really good, and he's starting to take some of that pressure of ball progression away from Moussa Dembele and Christian Eriksen, which Spurs need. And I actually think, for you guys as England fans, you should be really excited about him, because he's the sort of player England don't really have.
He will not get a game for England at the World Cup.
He should do.
He won't.
But he should do.
He's
if they don't start him at the World Cup, then
so-
Southgate's even stupider than I think he is, and I think he's pretty
that
stupid.
would be horrible under Gareth Southgate. Because Southgate would play him in completely the wrong role, in completely the wrong system, and he would not be able to find those pockets of space in a Southgate team.
He will be able to
Southgate-
some extent. He plays a three-man midfield. He'll always be able to find
Well,
some
Southgate
space.
said he was going to start playing a 3-4-3, didn't he?
Yeah, well, that's going to be an
I'm not
absolute
sure
disaster.
if that lends itself
Yeah.
Apparently, this weekend's
to Harry Winks'
This
incorporation.
weekend's midfield trio, just to strike fear into the heart of the Germans, is Jake Livermore, Jack Cork and Loftus-Cheek, which is...
Yeah, but that's fine. It's a friendly before a World Cup year. Like,
But
what do you do?
none-
You give people a chance to
None of them are going to go to the World Cup.
Loftus-Cheek potentially could. Who knows?
I'd be very surprised.
But you've also got to be careful, because what if somebody important gets injured, and then you need to find a replacement for them? You've got a bunch of guys who've never played for the team before.
But if we
I
have,
don't
so we've just looked at the list of French players who are on the cusp of breaking through, right, and they're all around 20, 21, 22. So, and if we've had very successful youth teams of late, under 17s,
Under
under 20s,
19s,
won their respective World Cups, would it make more sense to bring a few of those through for these particular games, sort of low pressure friendlies, instead of Jack Cork, who's 27, 28, Jake Livermore, who's 20, a similar
Not
age.
even older.
Would they benefit from that experience as opposed to these kind of seasoned veteran Premier League stars
Definitely.
who have no future in the English setup? In they won't progress the team, will they, moving forward?
Yeah, exactly. Not that they're similar players, but would you rather see Phil Foden get 60 minutes or Jake Livermore for England? Not that they're playing in the same role.
no, I
I'd
do.
100% rather
And
see
he's
Phil
supposed
Foden.
to be special. I've spoke to people who go. I went to Millwall versus Burton Albion with a guy who watches Man City's youth games because he lives in Manchester. He doesn't support either. Don't know why we were there. Bit odd, really. And he was just like, people pay. When Phil Foden plays, there's a notable increase in people that go and watch the games. He's that good.
Yeah, but they've got a bunch of, there's Brandon Barker as well at Man City, who's a really exciting young player. I think you're right. They probably need to start having a more programmatic method of bringing through like these youngsters, because it's something that English clubs and the England national setup are very, very bad at right now. So yeah, do I think that Jake Livermore should be getting minutes? No, not really. But at the same time, like when I look at England's potential first team and their squad to go to the World Cup, I think it's really good. I think it's really solid. I wouldn't go for 3 at the back though, because I don't think England have 3 good centre backs.
Yeah, I agree. That would be a horrible decision in my mind. I think you should definitely be playing 4-3-3.
Although Eric Dyer has looked better for Tottenham at centre back than he has done for England.
Yeah, but what Eric Dyer, he looks good when you've got Jan Vertonghen and Alderweireld. But when you've got Phil Jones to the left of you, he's going to have to be sweeping up so much mess.
So theoretically, who would our best back 3 be? John Stones.
Phil Jones. Phil Jones has been in good form.
Jones, Stones, and probably
Smalling.
probably Cahill.
Oh yeah, Gary Cahill. Completely forgot about.
I don't know though. I mean, Keane's been good this season. Maguire's English
for Everton. I thought Keane wasn't included in the squad.
I think Keane's been surprisingly good when he's played. I think he's been sandbagged by a horrible.
I completely forgot about Cahill. Cahill's captain, isn't he?
The best as well out of Maguire, Keane. There's Ben Gibson was better than both of those last season at Middlesbrough. Ben Gibson's
you're a big advocate of Ben Gibson.
Ben Gibson's quite a special centre back actually, and I don't know why he of the 3 didn't get the move.
So I would go for Cahill, Stones, and Jones, but it's just horrible. I would definitely play a back 4. I just think it's an awful
a back 4 looks really, really strong. You've got Danny Rose, you've got Kyle Walker, and then you've got like probably Stones and Jones.
Well, that's why I'd maybe play 3-4-3, because you've got people who do it at club level, Danny Rose.
With Tottenham. So the only reason that you can possibly
But they also play
play
4 at the back sometimes. They don't always play 3 at the back. Like Spurs have played 4 at the back and
more
3
so
at the
this
back.
season, like they've been more tactically flexible this season.
But
so
I mean,
what he's going to hope then is, I'm kind of presuming if he's setting out in a 3-4-3, is that he's going to lay it out in a similar situation to Tottenham, where he's going to have Dyer as a holding midfielder, he's going to have Ali further forward, potentially Winks alongside him, then he's going to use like Lallana as his Eriksen, and then Kane up top. That's the only way I can see it happening. And if that's the case, you've
got to get fine space for Sterling.
Yeah, you're underutilising probably the best Englishman other than Kane right now, which is Raheem Sterling. I just don't agree with the 3-4-3 at all. I think you should be playing a 4-3-3 and just making the most of the pace on the wings.
But at least if he has an idea of how England are going to play different systems, then that will be beneficial for them in the long run. Like if the England national team can play different formations, I think often people mistake formations for tactics. If he's just going to roll out kind of the same tactics but with a different formation, I think that's stupid. Like that's not how it works. But like, if England are able to switch between formations during the tournament, that can surely only be a benefit for them.
Yeah, very true. But anyway, we've got a little bit off topic. I can't even remember what the question was.
Thanks though.
It was basically something about Premier League underrated or surprised us. So answer the question yourself in the comments below if you can remember it, because we can't.
Brilliant.
So that's everything on Sunday Vibes, but don't go anywhere just yet. FDFC has a special video this weekend, Hamster.
It is the behind the scenes footage of the bitter in-house rivalry, EFD against FD. These 2 were managers, me and Jacko were captains. The actual game is out on FD on the 18th.
Yes.
But you'll get a little sneak preview if you go on over, mosey on over to FDFC.
Ooh, thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see you later.
Bye.